A powerful and sudden storm swept through Paris, causing massive disruptions across the city and surrounding regions on Wednesday evening, June 25th, 2025. The storm brought torrential rainfall, gale-force winds, and hailstones up to 5 centimeters in size, transforming the landscape into a chaotic, flooded mess. The storm struck with little warning, rapidly darkening the skies as it moved across the city. Within moments, rain began to pour heavily, drumming relentlessly on rooftops, streets, and subway stations. The intensity of the downpour overwhelmed local drainage systems, leading to flash flooding in low-lying areas and major roads. Streets, underground tunnels, and metro stations were inundated as water surged into stations and onto platforms. As the storm progressed, hundreds of commuters found themselves trapped in flooded metro stations and at commuter rail stops as water rushed into tunnels, forcing several sections of the network to shut down temporarily for safety reasons. Emergency crews were dispatched to assist in evacuations at several underground stations, with some commuters being rescued from waist-high water using inflatable rescue boats and makeshift rafts fashioned from subway seats. By the late evening, the storm unleashed a staggering 39,000 lightning strikes across France and Belgium, with Paris being one of the hardest-hit regions. Thunderstorms rumbled through the city, accompanied by blinding flashes of lightning and deafening claps of thunder. These violent electrical storms added to the chaos, heightening both awe and anxiety among the residents. Fierce wind gusts tore through the capital, uprooting dozens of trees and scattering debris into the streets. The heavy winds and hail caused extensive damage in several parts of Paris, particularly in the central districts. Trees were uprooted, blocking roads and damaging cars parked on the streets. Airports were significantly impacted, with flights in and out of Paris disrupted. More than 20% of scheduled flights were delayed or canceled due to the storm's intensity. Hailstones battered vehicle windshields and building facades, prompting motorists to seek shelter. With winds reaching over 100 km/h, visibility became extremely limited, making driving hazardous. Local authorities issued warnings urging people to stay indoors and avoid traveling unless absolutely necessary. As the storm continued through the night, Paris officials issued a red alert for the city and the Île-de-France region, warning of the potential for further flooding, falling trees, and power outages. Tram services and surface buses were temporarily suspended as water levels rose to 50 centimeters in some of the worst-hit areas. Emergency services worked relentlessly to clear flooded roads, remove fallen trees, and restore power to affected neighborhoods. In residential areas, basements and ground floor apartments were inundated, forcing families to evacuate their homes and move their valuables to safer locations. Public services and businesses across the city were also affected. Commercial districts saw water breach into stores and cafes, with sandbags and portable pumps being deployed to prevent further damage. Some businesses chose to close early to protect their inventory and minimize losses. The city's infrastructure was heavily tested, with municipal utility teams working overtime to clear blocked drains and reinforce key systems. Despite the severe damage, firefighters and medical teams responded quickly, assisting with rescues and treating those who were affected by the storm. While the weather calmed slightly by early morning, many parts of the city were still dealing with the aftermath of the storm, including flooded streets and damaged buildings. By the morning of June 26th, the rain began to subside, but the destruction left behind was significant. Streets were littered with fallen branches, leaves, and debris, and the city's usual flow was replaced by the hum of cleanup operations. Emergency crews were deployed throughout the city, working to restore normality and clear floodwaters from major roads. The Paris authorities promised swift action to repair the damage, with cleanup efforts continuing through the afternoon. Residents were advised to stay cautious, especially around damaged trees and flooded areas, as additional rainstorms were predicted to hit throughout the day. This storm in Paris serves as a stark reminder of the increasing frequency and severity of extreme weather events, with climate change contributing to more violent storms. Cities worldwide are being forced to prepare for similar disruptions. The rapid pace at which the storm impacted the city highlights the need for stronger infrastructure and improved emergency preparedness to mitigate the effects of such disasters. Residents of Paris and other affected regions were urged to follow safety guidelines and stay informed through official channels. Recovery efforts will continue, but the city, like many others, must adapt to the challenges posed by climate change and the growing frequency of natural disasters.
哦，已经有水起来，哇呀，河水赶紧下呀！
In the mountainous heart of Sichuan, life has for generations been bound to the rhythm of its rivers and the towering cliffs that guard its valleys. Small streams spring from the highlands, weaving through pine forests, before merging into broad rivers that nourish the fertile plains below. Villages stand close to the water's edge. People farm, fish, and draw their daily needs from these currents. Over centuries, they have learned to both rely on and respect the power of nature. The river and the mountains are sources of life, but also of hidden danger. And sometimes, even the most familiar lands can turn into sudden threats. It began with days of unending rain. Heavy clouds pressed low against the peaks, shedding torrents into the valleys. The sound of water drumming on rooftops and earth echoed day and night. At first, it was nothing more than a background to daily life. But soon, the constant rhythm became a warning. The rivers swelled, and their flow turned violent. In the narrow gorges, the gentle murmur of streams became a roar. Few realized that high above, on steep mountain slopes, soil and stone had grown saturated and unstable. Rainwater seeped deep into unseen cracks, prying the earth apart. Roots that had held the slopes for decades finally snapped. A single rock slid loose, then another, and suddenly, without time for warning or escape, the mountainside gave way. The thunder of earth and stone drowned out the storm. A massive surge of mud, rock, and uprooted trees crashed down into the valley, tearing apart everything in its path. In moments, it slammed into a river bend, blocking the current and forming a wall of debris. The water rose quickly, trapped behind the earthen dam. A swelling lake took shape, its surface choked with branches and shattered beams from homes upstream. Downriver, villagers watched the water turn a heavy brown, littered with broken tiles and household remnants. The air reeked of mud and rotting wood. Pressure mounted, and then the dam burst. A wall of water and chaos thundered down the valley. The flood tore through markets, smashed courtyards, and lifted vehicles like toys. Houses shuddered under the impact. Some were swept away whole, others shattered in seconds. The cries of neighbors were drowned beneath the roar of the torrent. Rescue teams rushed into action. Inflatable boats battled the currents, steering between half-submerged rooftops in search of survivors. Helicopters cut through the rain, lowering rescue lines toward desperate hands. Volunteers, drenched to the bone, carried the elderly on their backs and shielded children in their arms. Every second was a race against death, but with each life saved, a spark of hope returned. When the flood at last began to recede, the landscape left behind was almost unrecognizable. The mountains bore raw scars where the earth had fallen. The valley floor lay buried in heavy layers of mud. Broken beams, shattered homes, and tangled belongings filled the streets. Farmland lay smothered under thick silt, crops destroyed before harvest. The familiar scent of cooking fires was gone, replaced by the heavy odor of soaked earth and silence. But the people of Sichuan are no strangers to hardship. Families opened their doors to neighbors who had lost everything. Villagers worked side by side, clearing roads, passing stones, shoveling mud. Temporary kitchens rose, serving hot rice and tea to those in need. Children found dry corners to play, their laughter a fragile but precious reminder of life returning. Rebuilding would take months, perhaps years, yet there was no doubt it would come. Nature is powerful and at times merciless, but human resilience is no less enduring. The mountains and rivers remain, sometimes sheltering, sometimes testing, and the people here will continue to stand, to adapt, and to endure. Thank you for watching and for sharing this story. Your care and compassion help keep alive the voices of resilience and hope. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring more journeys to light. Stay safe, stay strong, and remember, together, we can withstand even the fiercest storms. Here's Sarsrael.
Nature doesn't send us warnings, but we can. Floods, earthquakes, wildfires, and storms are striking harder and faster than ever before. By subscribing, you are not just watching, you are joining a movement to stay alert, stay informed, and helps others to do the same. Hit the subscribe now because the next disaster won't wait, and neither should you. Be ready and be aware.